Hi, this is Marie-Eve Karen at ASI, and this video will demonstrate how to modernize your RiSE website. It is a recap of a session presented at the 2018 Innovations Conference. First, I'm going to be covering the new features that have been added to RiSE in the past year and will be part of our upcoming release. Next, I will show off inspiring client websites to show you what's possible within RiSE. Lastly, I will take you through the current and emerging trends and how they can be integrated into RiSE. I will show concrete examples and provide code snippets. So what's new in the upcoming release? Well, first of all, we have two exciting new themes, Great Barrier Reef and Glacier Bay. Let's take a look. The creation of the Great Barrier Reef theme came about as we were reviewing our inventory of RiSE themes. We realized that although white background themes, such as Austin Responsive and Toronto Responsive, were hugely popular with our clients, we were not offering any dark theme as an option. So we started working on a modern, edgy, dark theme. As we conceptualized this theme, we wanted to make sure to include some of our clients' wish list items shared with us in the past few years. As a result, we implemented full width areas which can now be used not only on the homepage, but on any internal page as well. We also took care of placing the logo, auxiliary navigation, and primary navigation on top of the slideshow iPart for this theme. When we take a closer look at the design elements of this theme, we can more easily understand why it gives off such an edgy vibe. The high contrast between the dark and bright colors, as well as the sharp edges used for the content containers and diamond-shaped buttons, really help make the website feel dynamic. The flat iconography and flat buttons give the website a modern look. As we are aware of the drawbacks of flat design, we made sure to also include proper user feedback whenever the hover or click state are triggered. Since the colors for this theme were already quite bold and prominent, we wanted to make sure that content block definement did not become simple visual clutter. This is why we decided to opt for a very light and one-sided border to define the Become a Member section shown on screen. It allowed us to define a clear group of related items without making the page look too heavy or too busy. The Glacier Bay theme was created at the same time as the Great Barrier Reef theme. Considering how popular white background websites have been in the past years, we thought we would create a fresh new one to add to our inventory. As opposed to the Great Barrier Reef theme, this theme was meant to be gentle, soft, and comforting. This is why we opted for cold colors and soft grays and beige. The blurred close-up images used within the full width areas also contribute to the overall feeling of peacefulness and softness. While this theme is meant to be a bit more conservative, the straight lines help keep it modern. Note that in the upcoming release, we have deprecated the Member Mobile, Advanced Accounting Console, and desktop websites. A great feature that was added is the ability to upload custom themes through the staff site. This feature is available in two different areas in the staff site. If you go under RiSE, Site Builder, Manage Website, and select the website of your choice, then click the Look and Feel tab, you will notice that a new link was added below the Theme drop-down select list. This new link allows you to download the theme folder associated with each theme available within RiSE. Once you click on the download link for the selected theme, it will download a zip file, which will include all of the CSS, skin, images, and other files relevant to the theme, as shown on screen. In this example, you can see that I have added additional folders, JavaScript libraries, and other CSS files to make it a custom theme. To upload a custom theme, as I have here, simply select the new app theme, give your theme a name, select the associated website template, and upload the zipped folder file. You will no longer have to connect to the FTP in order to modify the files within the app theme folder. Everything is now available from the staff site. Note that the style guide will now be available in the staff site. For those of you who are already familiar with the iMIS style guide, you know that you can find it on all public-facing websites under Manage, Style Guide. Now, you can also find it in the staff site under RiSE, Style Guide. Another great feature added to RiSE is the image meta tag field. Meta tags are HTML tags that you can find within a web page that contains information regarding the page's description, the title, some keywords which are often used for SEO, author, and images. This information, while not visible on the web page, helps social media networks gather information about your web page when a user chooses to share that page. For example, let's say that you are on a news website reading an article and you wish to share that information with your friends on Facebook. This is what you would typically see once you click the share button. Along with your comment and your username, you would see an image, the title of the page, and a description. All of that information is pulled from the meta information within the HTML page, which is why it is very important for you to define that information. I will show you how to do that in RiSE in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about the changes that we made to the content tag list iPart. Due to the integration of a new field allowing you to define the image meta tag, you can now define an image within your content tag list formats. Here's how you would do that. First, open the content page. Under the Properties tab, go ahead and define an image to be associated with this content page. You will also notice that the meta description and keywords fields are already there. You can also fill those out if necessary. Save and publish the page, then navigate to the Tagging menu item and select Tag List Formats. You will first need to define a format with the image in order to use it with the content tag list iPart. In this case here, I have already created a format with the image. You would go ahead and insert an image by clicking the Dynamic Image Manager icon here. Once you click on this link, a window will appear, and you will simply have to select the meta image property and insert it on the page. This will automatically build an image HTML tag and add as its source the content of the meta tag field that you populated in your content item. Go ahead and save this list format. Once the list format is saved, you would go back to Page Builder and Manage Content. You will need to create a page with a content tag list iPart, which I have already done. If I click to configure this iPart, you'll notice that I have selected my new tag list format here, which includes the thumbnail. On the public website, it would look as such. The image was displayed here, the title, the date, and the description taken directly from the meta tag summary. The iPart, formerly known as the YouTube iPart, has been renamed to Video Player iPart. We now support Vimeo, Twitch, and YouTube links. Also note that we have added the ability to upload caption files. For more information on how to create a caption file, you can visit the link displayed on screen. For added accessibility, we have made the object browser keyboard accessible and screen reader compatible. You will find the object browser anywhere within the page builder or the site builder, where the screen is divided in two areas. We will now take a look at Inspire and Climb websites that have caught our attention here at ASI. The objective is to show you what can be done with RiSE and how to push past the constraints that any content management system would give you. It's also good to see what others are doing and what's popular out there. So the first client we will talk about is Steps Charity. This website is targeted at donors and caregivers as well as disabled individuals. While we did not create the design for this website, we did work on the website theme. This website truly shows the flexibility of RiSE. This website design was created well before the client migrated to RiSE, and so a lot of the items seen on screen were not designed specifically to work in RiSE. However, the integration was seamless. The combination of a monochrome image header with 4 large button images is not something that we would commonly see in RiSE. Next is the Association of Mining and Exploration Companies. ASI worked on the design conceptualization, theme creation, and content migration. What makes this website stand out is the use of the primary navigation on a vertical angle. Most of our themes, along with most of our client and third-party websites, usually show the primary navigation horizontally across the top. While it can be a little bit of a challenge to tweak the Telerik control to achieve such effect, it is definitely possible. The Institute of Public Administration Australia has shown us a very creative way to display query results. If you're familiar with IQA, you know that those results are shown within a table, which is not necessarily the most beautiful way to display some information. This client found a way to include images as well as some CSS effects to make those IQA results more interesting and appealing. The International Association of Professionals in Humanitarian Assistance and Protection, otherwise known as PHAP, is an organization that focuses on providing humanitarian practitioners and affiliated professionals with resources. ASI provided a design consultation and a design concept for this client. Since this client offers a lot of information and resources on their website, we introduced a drop-down navigation separate from the primary navigation. This allows users to find information more quickly without having to drill down various areas of their website. Since this client also had a lot of information to display on their homepage and did not want their users to miss out on some information that is shown at the bottom of the homepage, we introduced 3 quick links. Those blocks are actually anchors that point to a different content section on the homepage. Another element that helped make this website more striking is the use of full-width content areas with background images or textured backgrounds. The client wanted to mostly focus on events, resources, and the community section on the homepage. As you'll notice, some of these content areas use an image with a filter to make it a little bit more interesting. The Pioneers Volunteer Network makes good use of internal subheaders. As you'll see on those screenshots, the website has a banner for their homepage, but also has a header banner for each section of the website. This is a great way to increase usability on your website for users that are a little bit more visual. On this website, you will notice that they are also making use of quick action links. Again, this is great for usability. For new users that do not know your website, offering quick link options like that can be very helpful. This way, they will not have to go through each section of your primary navigation to try and find the information. This is also good for returning users who are familiar with the website but simply want to perform a quick task. The mock-ups of the new website being currently developed by the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust were really striking to us. The use of full-width areas with very large images definitely makes an appeal. But what I found mostly interesting is the use of split content areas as shown in the right-hand side screenshot. We see full-width areas with background images or background colors constantly on the web. So it is nice to see something slightly different that plays with both solid color and background images. Travel services websites usually use large images of their traveling destinations to enhance the user's experience and increase that yearning to travel. TravelSense has truly accomplished that in creating this homepage. So how can you improve your existing RiSE website? Well, one way to do that is to introduce A/B testing or user testing. So that can be done through various tools online, or you can also bring users in the office and have them use your website and gather feedback. Another great way to gather feedback from your users is to implement a feedback form directly on your website. One of my personal rules as a designer is to never deliver a design on the same day that I have completed it. I will set the mockup aside and get back to it 24 to 48 hours later to get a fresh look. The same thing applies to your website. Give your eyes some time to adjust. Something that might have seemed like the best idea at the time may seem like the worst idea 24 hours later. The most important of all is to adopt an agile mentality about web design. The idea is that web design should be done in small incremental improvements and be done in cycles. Another great way to improve your website is to stay ahead of emerging trends. Parallax scrolling has been around for several years, but still remains popular today. It's a great way to add depth to your website. Here, I have implemented parallax scrolling onto this homepage. As you can see, I am alternating content and images. I would not recommend doing parallax scrolling with content areas over content areas, as it can be very confusing. This can easily be implemented within RiSE using a page layout, and I will show you how to do that. Here under RiSE, Page Builder, Manage Layouts, I have created a Parallax homepage page layout. As you will see here, I have added a div container with a class of Parallax Background 1. This class contains a background image with fixed positioning. This is what creates the parallax effect. Following this, I have content and columns. And here I have another empty container. So as I said, I am alternating content and images. Page transitions are also a great way to add a little bit more dynamism to your website while creating a more gentle flow. On my demo website, I have implemented the page transition to a content collection organizer. Latest news, job openings, and member spotlights are all tabs within the CCO. And when I click on one of those tabs, the content slides in from the left. In the case of a page that would have a lot of content, such as a listing of the members of a board of directors, it can be interesting to show and hide that content. This is a great way to implement block transitions. Clicking on an item would reveal the picture and the biography for that person. Clicking on the Close button would bring you back to the listing of members. This is accomplished using Content HTML iParts for the content and a little bit of JavaScript to show and hide some elements. You can access this code using the URL here at the top. On this page, we have styled the CCO's tabs as buttons and centered them within containers that each have a different background image. Clicking a button will trigger the background image to fade out and show the content page within the CCOs tab. This effect is achieved through CSS animations only. While page transitions are a great way to make your content feel a bit more dynamic, please bear in mind that adding multiple JavaScript libraries does affect the overhead. Animating elements on the page really helps give the website a more polished look, but sometimes it can be a little bit overbearing if too many items are animated. As you can see here, the left element slided in from the left, the middle element slided in from the top, and the right element slided in from the right. This is a very subtle way to make the elements appear. As I scroll down here, you will notice that the counter counted up from 0. On the right-hand side, this block flipped. The animated counter is something that is very popular at the moment. You can accomplish that by adding a little bit of custom JavaScript to an existing progress tracker. This data is populated directly from an IQA query. The custom JavaScript used to create this animated counter can be found within the JS fiddle as shown on screen. All other animations on this page use a JavaScript library called aos.js, otherwise known as Action on Scroll. There are many other libraries out there that you can use to accomplish the same effect, such as wow.js, Scroll Reveal, and CSS3 Animated, just to name a few. I found aos.js to be fairly easy to use, as it only requires for you to add a small data AOS parameter to an element in order to animate it. The next trend I would like to talk about are Cinemagraphs, or video backgrounds. It's a great way to make your website more dynamic and set a focus on a specific area. However, I have found that sometimes the content of the video is irrelevant and does not really add anything to the user experience. In those cases, then, I think a simple background image would suffice. On my demo website, I have added a video HTML tag to a content HTML ipart. The video that I'm using is a loop video so that it will be seamless and will play continuously. The large white title is displayed on top of the video using absolute positioning. Another great way to set the focus on an element on your website is to use dynamic gradients. This is particularly good if you do not have the media material to create a cinemagraph. On this demo page here, I have added a gradient that is entirely animated using CSS keyframes. The positioning of the title is accomplished through absolute positioning in CSS. Mixing fonts is a great way to give your website more personality. Do not be afraid to use decorative or serif fonts for your large titles, as it does not reduce readability when the font is large enough. Other sans serif fonts can be used for the body text. Always be mindful of the load time if you're including multiple font files. Google Fonts is a really great tool, but there are other font services out there such as Font Squirrel and Typekit. Another website that offers great open source fonts is dafont.com. You will find a wide range of fonts from fancy to techno to gothic. Generally speaking, I would not include or use more than 3 different font types on a website, as it might feel a little bit inconsistent. CSS Polygons have been around for a while, but still have limited browser compatibility. CSS Polygons allow you to create page layouts that are more similar to magazine articles. Let me show you what I mean. In magazines, having an article with a drop cap letter, such as this one, is fairly common. On the web, however, it is a little bit more complicated. The introduction of CSS Polygons makes all that possible. In this case here, I have an article split on 2 columns and a polygon centered with the text floating on that polygon. In the case of this particular setup, I actually have 2 polygons. This allows me to float the text much closer to the shape than it would normally be possible, without breaking the 2-column layout. Another great example of polygon use is this image here. Normally, any image floating over text would be floated in a square box. But the use of CSS polygons allows us to define a crop zone, which allows the text to flow around the image, as it would in a paper article. CSS polygons can also be filled with a background image, as shown here. It can also be used to contain text. At the time this video was recorded, confining text within a shape could only be done within a circle polygon. Of course, in the case of this last section here, we would want to make sure that this displays nicely on mobile or tablet, and so we could easily change this to a square container once the screen size is more limited. CSS polygons are a great way to make your content more interesting. In the case of all polygons demoed on this page, everything was accomplished using CSS only. The clip path and shape outside properties are the ones that allow to draw the shape for the polygon and the crop zone for the polygon. The shape margin is what defines the margin for the floating text around it. As you'll notice, the polygon is defined using various sets of coordinates. I found a great tool to help me define those. I first created the polygon within Illustrator and exported it as an SVG. An SVG is essentially an XML file with various X and Y coordinates defining the vector points. I then uploaded this SVG file here on this website. Once my SVG file uploaded, the service was able to retrieve the coordinates from my vector object and construct the necessary CSS polygon attribute. If I wanted to, I could change those coordinates to be calculated in percentage, pixels, or EMs. All that I have to do is to copy this polygon and paste it into my CSS. The code for the CSS polygon examples can be found within JS Fiddle. This is the drop cap letter, and this is the CSS polygon cropping around an image and allowing the image to float so closely to the text. The last trend that I would like to talk about is voice recognition. This is something that's fairly easy to implement, and it's definitely one of the hot topics for this year. On my demo website, I have implemented a small microphone icon to the universal search. This icon will only show if the current browser supports the HTML voice recognition API. Clicking on this icon will activate the microphone. You will notice that in the browser tab here, a small red circle will appear, therefore indicating that the browser is listening to my microphone. I will search for annual conference, and the search will be automatically submitted with my search query. Annual conference. So you'll notice that my spoken words have been identified as being annual conference and submitted automatically to give me the search results. Voice recognition will be a big trend this year, and it is something that can easily be integrated into RiSE. Here are 3 keywords that you need to remember in terms of design trends for 2018. Bold, asymmetric, and brutalist. I have gathered 6 websites that I feel really represent the trends for this year. The first to really show good use of decorative fonts. If you navigate through this website, you'll notice that it uses primary colors, simple layouts, and has minimal content. It is somewhat reminiscent of a child's book or kindergarten material used when first teaching a child the alphabet. As such, their font also uses primary colors and very simple and basic geometrical shapes. This is a great example of a font that truly represents the brand and that was integrated as part of the design process rather than being an afterthought. The next two examples really show the asymmetrical designs. As you can see in the third example, the entire page is tilted. The last two examples really show the boldness of the colors. This is a very big trend this year, so do not be afraid to use very bright and bold colors in your designs. When you think about brutalism, you can think of large shapes, raw content, and mostly questionable web-safe color combinations. The Bloomberg website is a very good example of a brutalist website. They are using the default web-safe blue for most of their links and navigations. They've also kept their layout and design very simple, almost raw. There are no visual elements that are particularly striking. Other examples of brutalism includes Google Fonts and Craigslist. Brutalism does not always mean raw content, however. Sometimes I like to think of the old GeoCities websites where elements are turning and spinning, and it reminds me a little bit of that. Take a look, for example, at the Gucci website. This website is a very good example of a brutalist website, and it can be a little bit confusing. You'll notice a lot of large images, a lot of floating and moving, flashing elements, such as the scroll down here. You may also notice the cursor has changed to a hand. And if you scroll down, you'll notice very, very bright colors and other animated elements, such as the flying saucer in the sky. If you take a few minutes to look at the examples I have included on this slide and Google the words brutalist web design, you will most likely see a lot of very eclectic websites that can be sometimes confusing. While a lot of them are indeed confusing, there are ways to implement brutalism in a way that will improve usability and remain friendly to your users. Bloomberg is a great example of a user-friendly implementation. Now, you might think brutalism doesn't really apply to your organization. Your clients or yourself would never opt for this kind of design because you prefer to keep it more conservative or more professional. Keep in mind that any web design trend, as extreme as it might seem to you, will always end up having an impact on your very own design project and the aesthetic decisions that you will make. All design trends eventually trickle down to mainstream websites. The blue sweater scene from the movie The Devil Wears Prada is a funny take on the kind of impact design trends have on our lives, whether it is in the fashion industry, interior design, web design, or else. I highly recommend that you search for that movie scene on YouTube. Eventually, you might be inspired by a website and integrate some of its elements into your very own design. What you may not know, however, is that maybe this website took inspiration from another brutalist website. This is why it's important to be aware of the trends and understand how to apply them properly. If you find that you might need a little bit of guidance with your design projects, we at ASI have a new program called New Year, New Look. For more information, you can contact Christina Drozos at kdrozos@advsol.com. This was Marie-Eve Karen on how to modernize your RiSE website. Thank you for watching.